Okay, so you want us to go? Okay. Well, I suppose we better introduce ourselves first.
Yes.
I'm Heather Saunders. I'm the placement coordinator. I'm responsible for matching students to their practice element of their programme.
I'm Rachel Adams. I'm the placement development worker, and I'm responsible for dealing with student feedback and developing new placements and continuing current placements.
So, and as part of that, we've developed this dyslexia guide, or you have actually,
Yes.
Rachel, thank you. So, do you want to just give a quick overview?
Yeah, there's two different guides that we've designed. So we've designed one for students and one specifically aimed at placement staff. They're both fairly similar, although the student one has a bit more information. It briefly kind of goes through what dyslexia is. It gives an overview of what support the students can access from the university. It also splits up areas that students might find difficult with dyslexia on placement, for instance, memory and processing, communication. It details basically how they might present themselves. It also gives possible strategies that students might be able to use to overcome these issues in placement. And finally, there's a brief part at the back which covers areas that previous students have found useful in placements. Some examples are kind of allowing extra time, creating A to Z books to keep terminology in. And then we have useful contacts for not only the social work team but also the nursing placement team, as the guide was designed to go across kind of the School of Health and Social Care. The placement staff guide is relatively similar. It just has kind of less detail about the support networks within the university, as it's more student specific. That's kind of it really.
So, have you started to use that guide yet, Rachel? How does students get access to
Yeah.
it? How do placements get access to
Okay,
it?
so when we designed the guide, we created a training session that would run alongside. So we delivered a training session to placement support staff, launched the guide and spoke a bit about what they could do to support students on placement. We also spoke to students about the guide, and we've made it available on Blackboard for whenever they go out on a placement period, really. So they're able to access that freely. We also send it out to placements when they accept a student. If they do have dyslexia, we'll send it out to the placement assessors so that they've got full access to it.
So that leads to another question: is how does a placement know that a student has dyslexia? How does that all come about?
Yeah. So we have an application form that the student completes. Within that application form, there's a section where they're able to disclose whether they have any disabilities that will need to kind of reasonable adjustments will need to be made on placement for them. So we encourage that students disclose if they do have dyslexia or they have another disability. That then enables us and the placement to put in support for that student so that they can achieve kind of to the same level of learning as other students that don't have dyslexia. So basically we send that off to the placement and they're made aware that the student has dyslexia, and then, like I say, we put in that level of support so that they can perform on placement.
Do students generally feel confident to disclose that they have dyslexia, or are they hesitant to do that? How does that happen?
I think it's becoming more common that they will disclose. When we go and talk to the student about the application process, Heather and I both present to them, and we will discuss more in detail why we influence them to disclose. It is the student's own choice at the end of the day, but like I say, if they don't disclose and something happens on placement where there could have been a way in for us to put in support, that then might lead to further issues. So we do always encourage it. Placements are required to make reasonable adjustments if you do have a disability, and it won't affect kind of your assessment or you getting a placement, really.
So I think practice educators and placements quite receptive to students with
Yes.
disability.
Yeah.
Dyslexia.
I think it's becoming a lot more common, and obviously with guides like this and our training that we've been delivering, people are kind of becoming a lot more confident in being able to offer reasonable adjustments and making these students feel comfortable in their environment, really.